The rain had barely stopped when Emma stood frozen in front of the massive glass doors of Harrington Enterprises, her trembling hands gripping the strap of her worn leather bag. She had been summoned unexpectedly, told to meet her boss, Alexander Harrington, the powerful stone-faced CEO, whose name was whispered in awe and fear across the city. But what she didn't know was that this meeting would change the course of her life forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that heals even the deepest scars, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. It helps us tell more heartwarming stories like this one. Emma had been the nanny to Alexander's 3-year-old daughter Lily for almost a year. She adored the little girl, her laughter, her tiny curls, the way she always ran to her arms before bedtime stories. But she had always kept a respectful distance from Alexander himself. He was everything she wasn't, impeccably dressed, impossibly successful, and emotionally untouchable. The office staff whispered that he hadn't smiled since his wife passed away 3 years ago. He lived for his company, his daughter, and nothing else. That morning, though, the look on his face wasn't the usual cool detachment. There was something tense, urgent, almost desperate in his tone when he said, "Emma, I need your help." He stood by the window of his sleek office, city skyline behind him, holding Lily in one arm. His voice was low but firm when he continued. "There's a situation. The board believes I've been unstable since my wife's passing. Investors are nervous. They want to see that I've moved on, that I can represent the company's image as a stable family man. The media has been relentless. They'll ruin everything if I don't show them that I've rebuilt my life." Emma's brows furrowed in confusion. "I don't understand, sir. What does this have to do with me?" He turned then, and for the first time she saw something fragile behind those gray eyes. "They're hosting a charity gala next week. Every CEO is expected to attend with their spouse. I told them I was remarried." He paused, taking a steady breath. "And I need you to play the role, just for a month, until the media storm passes." Emma froze, her pulse racing. The idea was absurd. Pretend to be his wife? She was just a nanny, someone invisible to the elite world he lived in. But the sincerity in his voice, no, the desperation, made her hesitate. He added quietly, "If I lose this deal, hundreds of employees could lose their jobs. I'll compensate you well, of course, but I wouldn't ask if it weren't absolutely necessary." For a long moment, the only sound was the ticking of the office clock. Then from his arms, little Lily reached out to Emma and giggled, "Mommy!" The innocent mistake broke the silence and broke Emma's heart. She swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "All right, Mr. Harrington. I'll do it." From that day, their strange arrangement began. The mansion on Park Avenue, where Emma had always lived in the nanny's quarters, suddenly felt different. Her wardrobe was replaced with elegant dresses, her hair styled by professionals, her every movement rehearsed for perfection. The world believed she was Mrs. Emma Harrington, wife of the city's most stoic billionaire. At first, it was just an act. They attended dinners, smiled for cameras, and posed as the perfect couple. But when the lights faded and the doors closed, the facade cracked. Behind that steel exterior, Alexander was a man haunted by grief. At night, Emma sometimes found him in his study, staring at an old photograph of his late wife, his jaw tight as if holding back a storm. He never spoke of her, never shared what he'd lost. But one night when she found him there again, she quietly brought him a cup of coffee. "You don't have to carry it all alone," she said softly. He didn't answer, but his eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw a flicker of something real. Pain, exhaustion, and a fragile kind of trust. The days turned into weeks. They played their roles so well that sometimes Emma forgot it was pretend. She would catch him looking at her during breakfast, or lingering when she laughed with Lily in the garden. One afternoon, when she helped him fix a button on his shirt before a meeting, their hands brushed. The air between them shifted, heavy with unspoken emotions neither dared to name. But the truth had a way of reminding her of her place. At the gala, beneath glittering chandeliers, they stood hand in hand as cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed, calling them the power couple of the year. Emma smiled until her cheeks ached, trying to ignore the whispers from Alexander's social circle. women in diamond necklaces sneering that she wasn't his type. But when one of them murmured something cruel about her being just the nanny, Alexander's hand tightened around hers. He turned sharply to the group and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "She's my wife, and I won't tolerate anyone speaking of her that way." It shouldn't have meant so much, but it did. That night in the limousine ride home, Emma stared out the window, trying to hide the tears in her eyes. Alexander spoke softly. "You've been incredible through all of this, Emma. I owe you more than you know." She turned to him then, her heart thudding painfully. "It's not about owing, Mr. Harrington. It's about what's real." He didn't reply, but his gaze lingered on her lips before he looked away. Days later, as the final week of their agreement approached, the house felt different again. There was laughter, warmth, life. Lily was happier than ever, running through the halls with both of them chasing after her. And in those quiet moments when Alexander helped Emma cook dinner or brushed a stray curl from her face, it felt like a real family. But reality was cruel. The deal went through. The investors were satisfied. The company's image was restored. And suddenly there was no reason to keep pretending. That evening, Alexander called her into his study. His voice was formal again, his expression carefully unreadable. "Emma, the month is over. You've done more than I could have asked for. I've arranged a bonus for you. You can take some time off, rest, travel, whatever you'd like." Her throat tightened. "So, that's it?" He hesitated, then nodded. That was the agreement. She wanted to say something, to tell him that somewhere along the line, she'd stopped pretending, that she'd fallen in love with the man behind the title, the father behind the suit, but the words caught in her throat. She simply smiled and whispered, "Of course. Thank you, Mr. Harrington." That night, she packed her things quietly while Lily slept. Before leaving, she crept into the little girl's room, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Be good for your daddy, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice breaking. Downstairs, as she reached for the front door, she heard his voice. "Emma." She turned to see him standing there, tie loose, eyes weary, but burning with emotion. "You were never just pretending, were you?" he said quietly. Tears filled her eyes. "I wanted to believe I wasn't," she replied, "but you made it clear what this was." He stepped closer, his voice shaking. "You changed everything." "I didn't know how to love again, Emma. I didn't think I deserved to. But every time I saw you with Lily, every time I saw you smile, it reminded me what home felt like." Emma's heart pounded. "Then why are you letting me go?" He took a long breath, eyes glistening. "Because I'm afraid I'll lose you too." She reached for his hand then, her fingers trembling. "Sometimes love isn't about holding back your fear. It's about choosing someone in spite of it." He looked at her for a long moment before he pulled her into his arms, his voice breaking against her hair. "Then don't go, Emma. Stay, not as the nanny, not as the pretend wife. Stay because you're already part of this family." In that quiet moment, beneath the soft glow of the chandelier, Emma realized that sometimes love doesn't come wrapped in perfection. It comes through pain, courage, and the willingness to believe again. A month that began as a lie had turned into something beautiful, something real. Alexander had found his strength not in power, but in vulnerability. And Emma had found the one thing she'd never expected: home. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional tales about love, healing, and second chances. Comment below. What would you do if love found you when you least expected it? As the sun rose over the city skyline, the world saw a powerful CEO walk hand in hand with the woman who had once been his nanny. But in truth, she was now his heart, his hope, and his forever.